G'day everyone, welcome back to another episode of Sailing Quick Creations, where we're building a 46-foot John Pugh motor sailor. So today I'm going to try and get stuck into leveling this boat. It's sitting in the mud at the moment by about 6 inches. I'm going to lift it up so it's above the ground, and then it's sort of leaning to one side, so I'm going to bring that side up and level it all out. So unfortunately we weren't able to get a video out last week because we spent a few days down here getting everything ready, and we hired a crane to come down to lift the boat completely into the air, slide these H-beams underneath, and then sit the boat directly on top of them. It would have spread the load out over a large distance, and we would have had these really stable beams that we could have just welded some acro prop and some stabilizers on the side, and it would have been nice and easy. Unfortunately, the crane drivers didn't bring the correct slings down and weren't able to lift the boat. So unfortunately, they put us a week behind on everything. Instead of getting them to come back with the correct slings, I decided I was just going to lift the boat myself using the bottle jacks. So I'm at the stage now where I've leveled the boat and everything's hunky-dory. It's just not as high as I was hoping, and I've got these H-beams here that I won't be using, and we'll have to put them back. So I'll run through the footage of trying to level the boat. I didn't get a lot of commentary when I was doing it. I had a lot of people give me a hand, so I couldn't stop and video. I was just getting into it, getting the job done. So let's go through what I did. So I was down at the boat, and I was trying to contemplate how I was going to get around moving this boat without a crane, and my idea was that I was going to lift it up with a jack. And one of the other blokes here at the boat club, he came over and said, look, I've got a 30-ton pneumatic jack, if you want to borrow that. So he lent it to me, and we've got this pneumatic jack. Difference between this and a bottle jack is bottle jack, you would just be using this up and down motion with a lever arm just to pump that to go up. However, a pneumatic bottle jack has this little contraption here. Put your airline onto that and just press down on this button, and up goes the jack. This particular one, this hydraulic cylinder here, can lift 30 ton. It's more than this boat weighs, and it did the job easy. So I basically tried to make up a shim out of wood, put it up on this V section here, and up we went, and I was able to lift the boat no problem. So the challenge was lifting the boat up and then putting it on one of these timbers, and then pushing, like taking the weight off the boat. That would push that timber into the ground, so we had to go up until we were high enough to put another timber on, and as the boat pushed that into the ground, it was high enough to get this boat just off of the ground. So this is sort of a good view here on the ground level. So this is where the keel comes down, and just here is where the dirt level was. So this boat was this far into the ground, and now we've got a board underneath there and another board on top. So we're a good 200 mil off the ground where it was sitting, which is a bit more comforting that we're not in the ground. So as you can see, once I clean it up, there's probably going to be a little bit of corrosion that I'm going to have to readdress all this and repaint it. And then when we've got this on the cradles ready to go into the water, I'm going to probably have to do the bottom part too. So that's a 20 mil plate welded on the bottom, so I'm not too concerned about metal loss with corrosion there. So one thing I had to do was shore up the boat from it was dipping into the ground one way. So to do that, what I was doing was lifting up the boat. Each time I was lifting up the boat, I was putting a packer underneath this leg here, and this is bolted to the boat, which is bolted through a lifting lug there that's been welded on, and there's a lug welded on there, and these beams are just bolted to the boat. And then this beam here was a fair way in the ground, because over the years it's just been sinking further and further into the ground. So every time I lifted the boat up, I'd stick some packers in it, which each time I did that, the boat would go up and come back down and level it out. So that was really important. As I was going up, I was also jacking that low side up to stabilize it, and I did that on both these. So this one got straightened up, and this one got straightened up. So I just had to keep packing that up. I ran out of packers, so we had these hardwood beams which were cut into wedges, and every time we went up, we'd knock that wedge in a bit further. So the next bit that I had to fix up was these beams here. So as you can see here, this has been welded up the top, and then we've got this little cross brace here, and this is not a structural support of anything. It's like a 2 mil thick. I don't even know what it's for, but most of the weight of this boat, most of the weight that was tipping this way, was all supported with this one beam, and you can see that it's got a fair bend in this. So like, wasn't too happy about trusting the weight of my boat on this one support. So instead of trusting this, I've got an acro prop, a proper acro prop in here with a nice wedge supporting that side, and then I've knocked in some star droppers to stop that from spreading out or going deeper into the ground. I've got another acro prop on this side with some wedges in there too. So now I'm going to cut this one off here, and we'll have the acro prop, that vertical support, another acro prop, and another vertical support on this side. So much happier with this side now. So this aft side was a bit of a challenge. It was a little bit labor intensive, and I didn't have a nice spot like I did on the forward section to put the jack. So what I ended up having to do was dig a hole underneath this boat here. So the hole didn't start off this big. Got all these packers underneath. One of the challenges was to stop the jack from like tilting, because if you're trying to jack it up and it's tilting, it will just slip out and the whole boat will fall down. So to do that, we had a whole bunch of different wedge shaped woods to keep it in a level orientation. And as you can see, this hole just keeps getting deeper and deeper. Got more wood. Some of these are hard to get out. This is solid redwood. That's really hard to get out. Now, we won't be able to see, but down in this hole, there's another 2 of these stacked on top of each other. And the hole only started this deep. Not sure if we can see how deep that is, but it only started that deep. Just deep enough to put the jack underneath. Every time we tried to jack the boat up, the weight of the boat would push the timber that we had taken the load and spreading the load out on the dirt into the dirt. So then we'd had to chuck another one of these in the hole, and then another one went in the hole, and then this one, so there's 3, and then we had all these packers here, and these are nice and thick pieces of wood, until that the ground was compacted enough to take the load of the boat and lift the boat up. So after we managed to get that compacted and shored up enough to take the weight of the boat, then we were able to lift it, and then lifted it high enough to put 2 of these structural laminated beams in underneath, and then we put these wedges in as well, because the height that we needed wasn't quite enough for a 3rd laminated beam, but it was enough to put a couple of wedges underneath. So you can see here that one issue that we had to try and keep under control is, as we were lifting the boat up, the boat was sort of lifting up and sliding across, because the hole down there was sort of starting to lean to the side, and that jack was sort of tilting a little bit. So when we noticed that, we had to start using those wedges to true up the jack a little bit, to stop that boat from sliding out, and if it slid out too much, we could have lost the boat. So you can sort of see that's the original line there that the boat was sitting on, and the boat sort of moved over that 100 mil. But we had it under control. We're only going up 10 mil at a time, and as we're going up, it would move up 10 mil and across 10 mil. Then we'd go down and then keep going until we are up high enough to put a laminated beam or a wedge in there. But I can get my hand all the way underneath the boat, so it's not actually touching the dirt now, and it's on solid beams, which are also now not going to sink. The load spread over a much larger distance than it was before, and the beams that were here were all termite rotted out, and then I'll dig out a little bit of that dirt away from the keel, so I've got a little bit more room to work. So down here I've got these are the beams that I pulled out from underneath the boat. These are the hardwood redwood beams that the boat was sitting on, and that's one of the more solid pieces, but you can see that this is just like paper now. It's not much left of this, and that's what the boat had been sitting on for the last few years. I think it had been eaten out by termites, and it's got no life left in it, no structural support, and yeah, the boat was just pushing itself through the wood. The laminated beams being glued is not going to be really appetizing for the termites, and the other wood that I put it on, it's all treated treated wood that the termites won't like. So much happier knowing that that boat's not now going to keep tilting into the mud, and it's not going to fall over into my neighbour's boat. So feel much happier about the boat now being safe. The other thing I didn't like is that when the kids came up, being on such a big lean, it wasn't comfortable for them to walk on one side of the boat because, well, we're leaning closer to an edge and I'd rather them not go on that edge. So now the boat is also a little bit safer for the kids. So now I've got to move all these staircases back into position so we can get back up to the boat. Got to move this bench into a much better position, get rid of these beams because I can't use them now, and clean up all this timber that I haven't used. So more work to do, and more cleaning and more moving heavy stuff. So it sounds like fun. So that brings us to the end of this week's episode. So next week I'm going to hopefully look at doing this companionway and cutting these bits off here, cutting the front of the hard dodger off, and starting all the modifications on this sort of companionway area. If the weather is going to be as bad as it has been in the last week or two, we might move inside and I might start looking at drilling all the holes for all the limber holes. I want to make sure before I start attacking all the paint inside and getting it all blasted and painted nicely internal, I want to make sure all the limber holes are done and that all the welding is finished off inside. So stay tuned next week. Sorry about no episode last week, and leave a comment and a like if you want, and we'll get back to you guys next week. Thanks everyone.